difficulties, but I believe it's going, and except it's black on the screen for me.
I don't
No
see.
videos
Oh, hang
coming
on,
through.
hang on. Nope, still says waiting
Okay.
for Matthew Castanelli.
I'm on live, so I'm gonna do it. And you're
Okay.
coming through also, just so you know, Chris.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
Hello, everybody. In case you can't tell, I am currently doing a live stream with my friend Chris Lawley, who also makes Siri Shortcuts videos. And Chris, I'm going to bring you in here. You're now live.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Yeah, this is fun. Now that I've finally gotten the technical difficulties solved, hopefully permanently, and not with this microphone. So,
I
but
will say doing YouTube live videos are probably the most difficult kind of videos to do because there's just so much going on, especially when you're like a one-man shop. You're just kind of all over the place, and it's really difficult to do. So I admire the amount of times you've done it. I've done it a couple of times, and I've given up. I'm not doing them anymore on my channel.
well, I'm making you do it now. So,
No, that's fine. I'll do it with somebody else. I don't want to do it by myself.
I'm going to adjust myself a little bit. Sorry if that's creepy. Okay, we got some people in. Yay, nice. And everything is live and good to go. So today we are going to talk about Siri shortcuts on the home screen because we're both shortcuts nerds. Basically, I think that's fair to say.
Oh
I hope
yeah,
I'm not
definitely.
besmirching you or anything.
I love shortcuts. Workflow before that, it's great. I'm
Yeah.
super excited for it.
Do you have one of the shirts? I don't
I
remember if I sent
don't.
you one.
I don't have a
Uh,
shirt or sticker.
let's go to our super secret channel and
Oh,
I will
okay.
send you one. No, just
Yes.
kidding.
Okay.
I hope I didn't just stop something, but
I know. I'm so afraid to touch anything right now. I'm like,
all right. I want to check just to make sure that my screen shows up. Here's my iPad, and then that's coming up on the stream. And then let me get yours on the other side too. So we will be swapping back and forth and comparing home screens. That sounded weird, but mine's a bit of a work in progress right now because I had like a whole beautiful. Let me see. Actually, I don't want to go through my photos live. But I had a whole like folder system where everything was in folders, and I
mhm.
just recently moved away from that because I realized I wasn't using it as much. But just so for anybody who doesn't know, the Shortcuts app is one of Apple's default apps. Now in iOS 13, it wasn't previously, but it's like the way to make one tap automations for multiple things that you want to do on your phone, or sometimes just one thing. I used to work at Workflow, the app that became Shortcuts, and I built a lot of the stuff that's in the gallery right now. And then now I'm like making my own videos about it. And you make way more videos than I do, which I always am embarrassed by. But you make awesome Shortcuts videos also, and
Thank you.
iPad stuff and things like that.
Yeah, I try and keep it all in the same realm. I think shortcuts is really important to the ecosystem of the iPad and iPhone. We can't forget it's also on the iPhone, but
Oh yeah.
it's one of those things. I know a lot of people compare shortcuts to Android automation, but I don't feel like that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
Android automation to me, and I might make some people mad in the chat. I'm sorry, but Android
Right.
automation to me is
There
more
it is.
about automating the device. Shortcuts for me, I've got it set up so I'm automating my work,
Mm-hmm.
which is all around, video stuff for YouTube, podcasting stuff, and IT work for my day job. So it's
Nice.
funny you mentioned like one action shortcuts. The very first shortcut on my home screen, if you guys can see my home screen,
Oh, here, let me
there is
switch.
a
There you go.
it's this icon right here. That all that does is launch Safari reading list.
Here, wait. Can
That's
you
it.
go back and point it out again? I should have
Yeah,
done
it's
the
this
mouse. That's a
very
great idea.
shortcut right here. This
Okay.
one right here.
Do yours not
All
have names? Oh
I
man.
don't. So there's a couple of things that my icons are a little different. So these icons right here came from Mac Stories. They have like a custom icon pack that you can use
Mm-hmm.
for shortcuts. That's really cool and really handy to use. So that's where that came. And then when you add shortcuts to the home screen, you can actually delete the name so they don't have the name. And I kind of like that
Huh.
clean look without any icon names underneath it. Um,
Well,
Honestly, that's why I
I
don't have
hate
any
it.
apps on my home screen. Really?
Yeah, I don't
Really?
think I could do that. I think that was. I mean, well, maybe we can get into it in a second, but that was one of the things that I struggled with was that when they're in a folder, you have to expand it to see the name, and then they
Mm.
were all. I mean, I guess the big part is that when they all are the same color, it's actually like hard to identify within that group which one to pick. But yours do have the color pack. Here, let me switch to
Yeah.
my iPad real quick. I just want to show people. Yeah, Mac Stories has a Pixel sub brand that where they sell these like classic and color icons, and then so they have like this color bundle which you have with the black background, and then like a classic color, and oh wait, there it is, the non-colored ones. That these ones adopt the color of the shortcut as they're pasted on because they're like transparent PNGs. So yours are the black backgrounds one, and I just got this
Yes.
pack, so I haven't actually set most of those up. Let me switch back to you.
Yeah, I got these after I did recently on my channel. I did a video, actually not even recently, about a month ago. I did a video about what's on my iPad, and I had the non-black background, and then I have a folder down here too that take advantage of the white ones just to kind of be a little different. The ones in the folder I kept the name because
Oh
there's
yeah.
just a lot in here. But the ones on the home screen, I use these a lot. These are all like kind of quick actions. In fact, most of these just launch like are one action. So
Hmm.
this one is reading list. This one
Can
will bring up my today view and like things, and it'll also bring up fantastic now because I keep those in a pair.
okay.
Then these three actually, these four actually open folders. So like this one right here actually opens a folder on my server at home.
Wow.
Actually, that didn't work for some reason. I don't know. I have to investigate that. That's what you get at a live stream.
I
Sometimes
mean,
things
yeah,
don't work.
definitely. That's what I was gonna. Well, do you have to be connected to the server in files like
I
manually, or
um it should automatically connect, but you know what? It's not even showing up right now, so it
yeah?
might be turned off. We had a
Hmm.
I had a weird power outage here the other day, and to be honest, I
Okay.
might have forgotten to turn it back on. So
Well, that's fine. I mean, honestly, like one of the reasons I want to do these live streams is I swear to God, there's some shortcuts on here where I'm like, oh, I totally use this, and then I tap on it and it like doesn't work, or I just have so many that I am like overwhelmed by it sometimes. It's literally like 900 in my app, and actually
yeah, that's a
figuring out
lot.
what's useful. Yeah, the whole building stuff for the gallery has like cursed me because now I have too many like ideas that I want to both share, but then are like some of them aren't good enough to share. But just like, I mean, here, let me switch back to my iPad. I think I have like 100 that are just text editing ones, and
Oh
I
my
color code all
gosh.
of mine. So like, look at this. It's just like a full wall of text stuff, and there's tons of useful things in here. But
Uh-huh.
like making this shareable is not an easy feat. Hey, wait, let me count. I have one. See, it's like gray is shortcuts. Count shortcuts. Oh, I guess I haven't run that one recently, but 964. That's terrible.
Let's see
I'm a
here.
terrible person.
I try and keep mine under 100 because I'll forget if I have more than 100. So let's see. I'll run mine. I have
Yeah.
93 right now.
Yeah. Well,
So
you're a smart person.
yeah, I
I
try
mean,
and
I
keep it
like.
under.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
I just find once I get above 100, I start to forget what shortcuts I have, and like when you forget that you don't have a shortcut, or a shortcut to use for that, then that shortcut's not useful.
Well, then that's the perfect segue into this entire topic because that's why I
Yeah.
put them on my home screen. I will say,
Yes.
if people have as many or nearly as many as I have, you should get launch cuts because this app lets you basically do the same organization that I have, but in like little folders. And so you can jump through all of these, which is extremely nice compared to like the manual way to do it. But
Mhm.
I will say, it's almost like this is just as good as home screen stuff, but it does kind of depend on how you use it. But I've been loving. I have all of my stuff on my home screen in like giant folders. Oh yeah, I gotta. You can't see all of it. I've been experimenting with some new stuff here, but it's basically like all of my shortcuts are on my home screen, color coded by like the different areas of work. And part of what I do want to figure out is like how you're using. I think color coding works for personal, but it or for work stuff, but it doesn't work as well for personal stuff for me right now. And I think
Yeah.
that's why I got the Mac Stories ones to do like my example on my home screen is a little speaker with the HomePod icon because that's better to me than I have these little arrows that like it's hand off to the office or hand off to the living room or something like that.
Yeah, that's Good. That's what I love about that Mac Stories icon pack is once you start to build a lot of shortcuts, the glyph pack that comes default with shortcuts, which was the one that was in workflow minus all the fun uh company logos with
Pied
and
Piper.
the Pied Piper one.
If
I
we
remember when
hadn't
that
made a
was up.
stink about it, they wouldn't have noticed.
I
So,
know if what was it? Who was it that picked it up that noticed it? Was it The Verge that did that? And
oh really? I
then
didn't know it went that far.
I don't remember. Maybe I'm misremembering, but I thought it went pretty big, and then like the very next update, it was gone.
Yeah. Well,
And we always kind of assumed it was the Pied Piper one that got it kicked out.
I'm sure there's a couple weird ones in that. I think I have a. It's an illusion, Michael, and then here, wait. Oh no, it's totally gone now, isn't it? Illusion, maybe. Oh no, there it is. Haha! It plays the final countdown, which is Job's music opening act every single time.
It's an illusion.
I don't want to get copyright taken.
Yeah. No. You won't get copyright strikes. But yeah, no, it's shortcuts is just one of those things that you can get lost in it for hours. Like I will just sit down on the couch, put a movie on, and just make shortcuts.
Yeah, exactly. Have you ever listened to Make Do, the podcast? It's Julia Scott and Tiffany Arment, and it's about creativity and like getting. It's very much like a productivity podcast about art. Like half of what they're saying, I'm like, this exactly applies to my work stuff. But I was saying that like the shortcuts is like my therapeutic, just like do something fun in there. And I mean, part of the reason I want to share all of them and get my home screen out is that I can make more, because like when I do have those ones to get through, I feel like I'm not creating new ones. And there's just like cool opportunities now.
Yeah.
So what else do you have on
one
your
thing,
home screen? Sorry.
Sorry.
What I was going to say, what's on there?
Okay, so yeah, my home screen's right here. One thing I did do is after iOS 13 and iPadOS 13 came out, I deleted all my shortcuts because there were such overhauls to the Shortcuts app and the way shortcuts could be built now that I knew I could either streamline a lot of my shortcuts, make them better, or that I just have learned a lot more about shortcuts over the years to make them better, or that there are better actions and better third-party actions and things like that. So a lot of my the way I think about shortcuts is a little different. So like all of my shortcuts that are on my home screen here, these launch workspaces. So like these first four, that first one was reading list. I talked about that one. The second one launches the today view, which brings up like things. These next four open folders. So the first one opens a shared folder on my server. This fourth one, I forgot the word photograph for a second. That opens a folder in Dropbox, which actually opens up on my server that allows me to go through all the photos that I've taken, edited in RAWs and things like that. This one right here opens the LumaFusion media folder, which that one didn't work either. Is something going on with files?
Oh, are you on the beta? Because I was going to say, I wonder if it broke all those. I'm so scared that a future update is going to break home screen shortcuts.
Oh my gosh. I want them to improve them, not break them. Oh gosh. So apparently these folder ones aren't working. This one's supposed to open the downloads folder. Let's see if it works. Hey, it opened the downloads folder. There we go. Okay. So anyways, you can kind of see like that's what those were supposed to do. And then
can you open the shortcut itself? Or are they all just single? You said they were single actions.
They're all single actions, but I used again back to Federico Vitici. I used his shortcuts folder creator thing.
Oh yeah, I just started recently using that. So many things. Federico does so much that I'm constantly like, it takes me a while to even integrate it because, like, he's doing the deep end of shortcuts.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So basically, like to open the downloads folder, this is what it does. But he has this whole shortcut that like basically builds the URL for you. It uses scriptable. It's very, very intense. But once you have it built, it should theoretically keep working. But for some reason, 3 out of my 4 aren't working right now.
I bet that is just files. It's like
it probably is. I've had a lot of weird issues with files lately, so I'm kind of. I don't want to give up on it because it's so hooked into the system, but at the same time, it needs to get fixed.
Just can't scan my face while I'm like, oh.
But yeah, so basically a lot of these. So my color code system, you're going to talk about that. Basically, if it's gray, it means I never have to launch it from inside Shortcuts. So like
Like
these are
it's
all kind
a
of like archived shortcuts
or
because I
like
have like
via run shortcut. Is that what you're using
yeah,
for?
like I'll use like the
Yeah.
via run shortcut to like link to it from a big shortcut. So like I have let me pull up. I have this one right here, like task management. This one just runs a bunch of shortcuts, except for the first thing it just shows today because that's
Yeah.
easy to build. But like this just runs a bunch of shortcuts.
Nice. Um,
Uh,
I've been trying to like figure out how many of those. I think that was something that I was just asking my girlfriend actually is like, would you rather, here, I'm going to switch to mine of like, I have one for send to my office and then another for send to my living room. But she was saying she'd rather have one that opens a menu that lets you choose just so that you have more space. And I think that
yeah,
is kind of like, it's curious because it just sort of depends on personal preference.
that's true. And I think too, also it cuts down on that number of shortcuts you have to, so it doesn't make things so overwhelming when you open the app. And
Yeah.
on top of that, if you
Just
use
like all
shortcuts
this.
in the, I'm sorry.
Just like all this blend of colors and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing too is if you run the shortcut, if you have like a shortcut that just basically uses menus and lists and stuff, you can run it right in the widget, and you don't have to do like it doesn't have to actually open the app. It'll just run
Oh yeah.
right in the widget.
You don't use that, don't you though? I thought you
I
saw that.
I'm kind of back and forth on the widget. I like that shortcuts can run in it, but I also like having the today view, kind of like basically just seeing a summary of my day in that widgets view. What I really like, remember, I think it was was it iOS 10 that brought in the two column widgets, or
Yeah.
was it iOS 9? I don't remember. One of them brought
Or
them
yeah,
in, and
but they had it before.
yeah, the two columns of widgets. That's what I really want back. So I can have a column of like my today and like a summary of my day, and then another column just for shortcuts. Because
Hmm.
like here, I'll put it back, but I have a lot in there that I use.
Well,
Let's
do you
see
know
here.
about the pinning behavior there? Oh, it's down in the
Yes,
middle.
so you can do that, but I have just so many. I don't like to scroll. I found
Yeah.
myself like if it's not on the main screen right here, and if I have to scroll down, I just won't use it.
Well, here, let me switch to mine real quick because I feel like I don't. It's not perfect, but I do. I definitely spend a lot of time where, like, when you pull down on those, whichever ones aren't pinned in the there's like the three. I think you can actually have an unlimited amount of pinned ones now, which doesn't logically work because what actually happens is like it just starts going off the screen, which that's the problem with shortcuts is if you put it in there, it'll pop off the screen. But if you put it the one just below, and you can basically like hide the rest of the widgets, like the way that you have. I know it's a little delayed for what you're watching. But then like when you pop up, it scrolls to the top and shows all of your shortcuts. So it does actually like pop up in a nice little moment.
It does,
I
and you
definitely have
know,
to figure out how you can see this more in real time.
no, it's okay. Like you know, I've used shortcuts enough to know by what you're describing, like how it works. And actually, that makes sense. Like if I was to ditch the battery widget here, and when I was to use shortcuts, I could have my today view, and then when I scroll up, I have my shortcuts view.
Yeah, it's like just it for me. It kind of snaps up to the top.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to say I want to address something in the chat because somebody is asking if this is recording, and no, this is live. And also, someone is curious if shortcuts will come to the Mac and will it replace Automator, and we have no idea. I hope
I
something like that. I feel like it would, if anything, it would work with Automator at least at the beginning or something like that. But
Yeah, I feel like if you replaced Automator, you would make a lot of old Mac nerds very angry. Like me personally, I never got into Automator. I've been using a Mac, or well, I don't use a Mac anymore. I work completely off my iPad now. But I started using a Mac in 2007, and I just never got my head around Automator. But when
mm.
workflow came around, it did take me a couple of months to get my head around workflow because I'm like,
Oh
okay,
yeah,
why do I want to make you know, this action to make a GIF or something like that? And it's like,
yeah,
oh, okay, now I get it because it's really easy to take these 5 photos and make a GIF right out of them. And yes, it's GIF, not GIF.
yeah. The that's like the great debate right now. The peanut butter thing. Did
Oh
you see that?
gosh, I saw that.
It's clever, at least. I'll give him that.
It is
In
clever,
the
and it will
least
get
way.
people to buy it.
Yeah, exactly. Although I think it's like $10, but
Oh, what?
All right, let's go back to home screens.
Yeah. So I'm
So
curious.
you have all of yours in one. Let me switch yours real quick. You have tons of apps in the folder. Like you got those 4 folders down there. Do you
Yeah.
like
So
that? I can't stand the folders in the dock.
I I like it because I can quickly. So this is probably where me working from a Mac came in. Every app that I found useful always went in the dock on my Mac,
Yeah,
and then I would just launch from Spotlight or something where else. But it was always hidden in the applications folder. We don't really have like a hidden applications folder on the iPad, so I just kind
yeah,
of put everything down here. Plus, it makes it easier for multitasking.
yeah,
Uh, so I have these 3 folders right here, just all apps, and I have this is creativity, this
yeah.
is entertainment, and this is utilities.
And
Eh,
what's the last one again?
the last one is shortcuts.
Oh yeah, that's right.
These shortcuts right here. So the ones on my home screen are workspaces. These are action based. So these
Yeah,
will be things like a clipboard manager and control over timery, and this will like create. This one will create drafts and all sorts of different things.
that's awesome. Those look so nice too. Especially those icons are great.
Yeah,
That's I
Mac
guess.
Stories.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, Max Stories Pixels. They did a really good job designing these.
Yeah,
I know it's Federico and Sylvia. Like they did a very very good job designing them. And honestly, like when you get deep into shortcuts and you start putting stuff on your home screen and things like that, you run out of the glyphs to use. Like I can't tell you how. There's only a couple of audio glyphs. Like there's a microphone and a headphone one. Like you can quickly run out of that, or you
yeah.
can run out of checklist ones and stuff like that. So
I will say I have painstakingly, and I'm talking like my wrist probably hurt from this. I'm pretty sure all of mine, at least within one category, have unique icons, and
oh my
I
gosh.
got to the point where I was like, at least mostly satisfied with like the icons that I chose to, and even like I think some of the biggest groups. Here, let me switch to mine. Like in music, I took a very very long time to like try to find something that was clever enough and like slightly related. So, but I mean, I do think that's the problem is that once they got on the home screen and you start seeing like the whole wall of them that don't have
Mhm.
that much visual identification besides the icon, it just works a little bit less, which is interesting because like in shortcuts itself, I find that really helpful. But once they got on the home screen, I think it might just be like when you see like I went back to almost a more traditional home screen because of the visual identification between those icons in addition to like having the shortcuts just off to the side and stuff like that. It
Yeah.
was just like it looked so nice. Like I will not lie that it was a very clean screenshot to post on the internet. But in practice, that's like why I wanted to really do this is in practice it was just like I would just kind of be looking at like 5 different colors and then I was like I don't know what to do with this and now I can kind of do a traditional way or swipe over and I have let me actually run through my categories too and
Yeah.
I guess you won't be able to see it. Here wait,
I
let
can
me
see it right
share
now on
you
the live
on
stream.
okay, I was going to say I was going to put you on Zoom, but I have on my home screen, I have a couple that are for just like handoff, which sends my audio stream to my office HomePod or my living room HomePod. And then I have one called Handback that actually doesn't work very well. And I want shortcuts to fix this because when you do a hand like off, it's like send it from this iPhone to this certain HomePod. But if
Hmm.
you're sending it back, you have to specify the device, and there's no way to detect which device is using it. So I basically have to have like multiple versions. But
Mm.
I have a couple other like the orange is supposed to be my smart home stuff, and then green is like my health. I don't know. I kind of like went vibey. I don't know. It's very. I guess it's very California. But then like on the second page, I have a bunch of shortcuts ones at the top that sort of blend in with my background, which is kind of nice. And there's one that's gray, and that's probably killing anybody who's like a designer because it's like light gray, and then one that's an off-color gray. um, but then I have like blue for things, just because it's the same color. That made sense
Yeah.
to me. And then I think somehow I reverse engineered into purple being music just by like default. But then I also have red for YouTube videos, pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
I somehow also ended up with pink for photography stuff. And then I have the other orange, which isn't dark orange, is Ulysses, because that's also their primary color. iMore is all yellow, and then that also, like, it does all of the stuff that I work on has like nice little colors, so that ended up working well for me. I have like web/internet stuff is the teal or light blue, and then I have purple for podcasting and pink for live streaming. So I have like a whole variety of shortcuts. I think one of the original problems that I had was that I tried to create shortcuts for every step of the work process, and that was when I also like didn't finish all of them and then just had shortcuts that were like half complete. Like I'm pretty sure some of these streaming runs aren't actually real. And then the other thing that I was telling you before the stream is that I have like on my iPhone, I also had put every single one of my shortcuts. But I also just switched that back because I mean, a very big thing is that you don't use all of the same shortcuts on the same device. And so I started to like really curate, if I'm going to do this on my phone more than on my iPad, it should be on my phone's home screen. And then if I'm going to do it on my iPad more, it should be on that one.
Yes,
Also,
absolutely.
this is sometimes it's like, duh, like use the one on the device that you want to do. But I think it's fascinating. I don't remember who talked about this point originally, but just how shortcuts on the home screen is just a way to be extremely intentional with your device, because you're going in through these actions that do something. It's not just like, I mean, especially like color coding your icons and stuff does have it like in the same way as this makes it easy to find the one that you want because you do associate by the color. But it's just like a little bit more intentional than you just see like the pretty colors and tap on them. Sorry if it's cutting in and out. Also, I think the Zoom is being a little misbehaving.
Yeah. It's fine on my end. Hopefully it's fine on the live stream.
Yeah.
For me, I have a bunch of unfortunately I would show you, but I'm using my iPhone for the video call right now. But I have a bunch of shortcuts on my home screen of my iPhone. I have just 4 folders at the top that hold all my apps. Then the rest of the home screen is shortcuts, and then just in the dock I have Safari, messages, drafts, and things.
Oh yeah. You got it the super minimal also like that?
Yeah, and I just have one page there. You could probably notice I have 2 pages on my iPad. The second page is just like apps I'm trying out and things I'm prepping for videos and stuff like that. Like I don't actually.
Hey, wait, go back to that. Sorry, I wasn't.
Oh
showing
yeah,
it.
yeah. So the second page is just like stuff I'm trying out for videos and stuff I'm gonna probably either make a video about or incorporate into a video or something like that.
Nice.
Yeah, so there's just a bunch
that
of
dictation one is good. I've been looking at that. Have you tried? I want to do this where I literally set up my phone next to my iPad and play my own video, and then it takes the dictation and then is
you're
transcribing it. Or you can probably load it directly, but
yeah, you're supposed to be able to load it directly, but it keeps crashing on me. So I've tried it with a couple episodes of Slap a Glass, and it doesn't quite finish it for some reason. So I don't know if that has something to do with how I encoded a Slap a Glass or whatever, but I need to spend some time and try it because I'd love to offer dictation for my podcasts and videos, because every service right now that does it is so expensive. I'd basically, it's everyone that does closed captions, there's a reason why it's big YouTubers and stuff like that, because it's very, very pricey to do.
I still feel like it should. I feel like iOS can do it, and somebody just hasn't built the right app for it yet because it has all of those features in separate ways. But I don't know. Call for action. Somebody build.
Yeah, exactly.
Make sure I do it too.
If I knew how to write an app, I would do it. But there's no Xcode for the iPad, and I don't know how to make an app. So yeah, I can make a shortcut, but that's about it.
That's what I was gonna say. Is my secret is I'd rather just make the shortcut and somebody else makes the app, because then I can just use it. And I mean, like
I have shortcuts in here that are pretty complex. Like this is one that my co-host and I, Jeff, built. This is a daily journal one, and it does a bunch of stuff. It actually has a PDF encoded in the doc in the shortcut, and it uses base 64 to decode everything. and then on top of that, you could choose from a menu, so you could choose like to handwrite things or go through prompts.
Nice.
It's actually pretty complex. Yeah, you could make an app that does that same thing, but that took me it took me a little while because I sent
Oh,
it to
yeah.
like people like you and Alex and things like that, and I made a bunch of changes, but it would have taken me way longer to make an app to do that
Yeah.
same thing.
And it's like you have to basically have a business model behind your app
Mhm.
now instead of just making a shortcut and sharing it, which is
Yeah.
like that's not going to work for everything. And I do want to see a lot more like independent developers, especially building these types of like I actually don't mind. I've seen a couple apps that are basically things that I could kind of do with shortcuts, but I'd have to make an API call or something like that. And I don't, at a certain point, that's like great, but like an app is going to be way more accessible to millions of people. And I'd rather them build that function into an action in shortcuts and then promote that app for $1 or something like that.
Yeah.
I'll actually show it. This guy's app just came out today. It's called Neon, and it takes. Here, wait, I'm not showing my iPad. It's like a real time color picker. I like just happened to follow the guy. But you can both show your like take a picture with the device. I'll use my.
Neon is not a search term you can search for in the App Store.
Yeah.
Fun fact.
Whoa, it's all okay. It might not be super optimized for iPad. There it is. But like I can take this picture and then it will extract the primary colors out of it.
Oh, nice.
Okay, maybe the real time one isn't as good of a demo. Oh yeah, it just captured brown. And then you can like use that. But it's like great. And then related colors and stuff like this. Like I literally have a shortcut. Let me even pull it up because we can do this live. That like is supposed to call the real time or like the color API of the same one. Am I in the right category? Oh yeah, I have it like personal on top all, and then I used all of the colors, and then I swiped down all the way to my work categories, and then I use all the colors again. Yeah, image color detection. This calls. Let me see. Site engine is the API, and then you can basically do similar type of things. But again, you have to know how to like get the JSON data out and stuff like this. So I'd rather just use this guy's app.
Yeah, absolutely. Greg in the chat just brought up something interesting. He mentioned, or they mentioned they don't know what to make with shortcuts and what's possible. And so I'm kind of curious, what would you recommend? Like, where would you recommend people start with shortcuts?
I mean, the biggest thing I try to do a live stream on this in the past actually is looking through the actions in the action pane. I think it's on iPad at least. It's on the side. On the iPhone, it's from the bottom. But looking through those categories at what it can do, I think is a major like benefit. And I think a lot of people just have never actually really internalized what's in there because that's like a big thing that, I mean, I also no blame to anyone because there's 300 actions and it took me literally years. Like I think I was going to say this before, but I didn't even learn workflow until I worked at Workflow and was sitting next to Ari, and he pointed out that like on an app you can tap on or on an action you can tap on the icon and it will show the description. And I was like, oh my god, like it was like I was like, no way, that's so much easier. Yeah, but basically once you like create a new shortcut, go through the different categories, and favorites is just doesn't actually have anything unless you favorite stuff in there. But looking through media, location, documents, and sharing, and web, those are the main categories. And then your own apps is probably going to be the most useful because it's got like different services that you personally use, and it will suggest things there. I think honestly, it's like it is a hard problem because shortcuts can do a lot of different things. I think, and especially you and I are at a point where shortcuts quickly starts to become a lot of the scripting stuff that is like, I would say beginners shouldn't really start with that because it does get confusing. I think like your demo of the home screen of single things that like even just the open app action alone can become like 25, 50 shortcuts for you if you want to have like a different way to first open this app than the other, or apps with like open into a specific part of it. Like I use things and I'll open into just one page with a tag on it or something like that. But it is like every time I give one good example, I'm leaving out 25 other different things that it can do. Like if you are a photographer, you might use it entirely differently. If
Yeah,
people
I
do
just
have
built
specific questions about or like what they do, post that in the chats too, because then maybe I'll just write them down and talk about it on future streams. Because that's the
yeah.
most helpful. Is like I could totally build some specific for people, but it is always depends on who you are. I guess.
I
Oh, you know
just
what? I have YouTube ones, but go ahead. I'm keep interrupting you.
no, you're good. No, you're good. I was gonna say I just built a shortcut for somebody on Twitter the other day that basically you mentioned photographers, and basically all it does is get the shortcut input. So basically you can drop a whole bunch of photos in there. It detects whether it's a JPEG or a Canon RAW file. If it's a JPEG, it puts it in Photos. If it's a Canon RAW file,
Oh,
it puts it
nice.
in Lightroom. And then if it's something else, it just says, "Hey, this is not a supported file type." So
That's cool.
you could do all sorts of things. I would pay attention to what repetitive task you do a lot. Like if there's something you do every single day, is there so like you mentioned the single actions on my home screen. I have the second row is just drafts workspaces. Like the first one
Yeah.
opens the inbox. And basically I can just tap those and go into that specific workspace. I use those all day long every day, and they're incredibly handy to me.
Nice.
So just pay attention to something you use and you do all the time, and then just look to see if that app or that process can be automated through shortcuts.
I think a big thing too that is hard is like a lot of people are like, well, I don't use the iPad to do those things, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that can be a big mindset shift, mind shift. But like just like realizing that you're doing this thing. I mean, a lot of like even maybe not necessarily for the work side, but like I like to think of like a computer should do this where I am doing the same thing over and over again and it has a repeated pattern. I think another thing is that is like one type of shortcut though, because there's also a bunch, I mean, I guess not for the home screen, but like some that do just have like a single function for me where I'll build it, use that shortcut to like switch a list or split some text, and then that's like probably why I have 900 of them is then
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I should share this or something like that.
I can't tell you how many times I've built a shortcut just to use it one time, like for one specific task. Let's think of something. A lot of times it's for my day job, which I can't share those unfortunately because they have company data and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times it's like get a bunch of text, do something to that text, and then boom, done. I don't ever need that shortcut again. I'll just
Yeah.
delete it. But it's okay to build a shortcut if it's going to save you time, or on top of that, if it's
Yeah.
going to help you learn shortcuts, and you have the time to spend learning shortcuts like that. That I think is totally okay. It doesn't have to be something you're going to tap 100 times a day.
I feel like
'Cause-
we should also teach people in a future stream together because it
Yeah,
is, or you should go on YouTube and watch some videos from your favorite shortcuts YouTubers. Mainly you and I.
which is the two of us because
Yeah.
I'm not sure anyone else does it.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a couple. I usually it's more. I was gonna say another area is like home automation. Somebody in the chat asked about like Apple TV, and that's an
Oh yeah,
awesome
I got one.
You can wake your TV. You can have it open the remote on your phone, so you can control the TV from your phone. Open app. Oh yeah, let me just.
I have
We can
my
show you. We have the technology.
Yeah, I know. I actually my TV just got updated with AirPlay 2 and HomeKit support. So I actually have a fairly interesting shortcut that's kind of complex, but I think some people might like it.
Oh, nice.
Um,
I'm jealous, man. I don't. I have. I mean, also I have a fancy. I literally tap into the like the web request for my TV and change the
oh, okay.
inputs with it. But yours
Oh,
is
I
just
haven't
doing it
seen
natively.
if my TV could do web requests. I'll have to look into that. But so my shortcut right here, it basically it'll look to see if the TV is on, and then if it's on, it'll just turn it off. But if it's not on, it will turn it on and then it'll prompt for which input I want. So I have Nintendo Switch, Xbox One, Apple TV, and then it'll set that input and then wake the TV. And then if I select the Apple TV, it'll turn on kind of like my movie TV mood lighting kind of thing, and then
Nice.
prompt for which app I want to go in. Because I only have a couple of apps I use on my Apple TV. They're all video apps. I don't play games or anything on my Apple TV. So like you can pick which one you want, and then it just opens that app in the living room in the TV. So
That's what I
uh,
was gonna say. The open app
open,
on the Apple TV is the awesome one because that's
yeah,
where
it
it's
is
like
really nice. So you can
what's
jump straight in.
Siri can't even freaking do it. It's so dumb. It's like
It's
you can with shortcuts and Siri, but not actual Siri.
And this
It's so
shortcut
good.
should theoretically work with conversational Siri.
Yeah,
It should.
she'll just read out. Do you want to choose from TV, Hulu, Netflix,
Yeah.
Amazon Prime, Disney Plus? Like, I really want to nail down. I think they should have some sort of rule where, like, if there's 2 options or 3, it reads it out loud. But if there's more than 3, it just asks. I do think sometimes it just asks, but I don't know. I haven't figured out the logic behind.
I haven't either. I honestly I don't think I use conversational Siri enough
Yeah,
to
well,
do it. It's one of those things
even
that
go ahead. Yeah.
I just wish like you can go a little more in depth when building the shortcut. Like you could do like some like, hey, when I trigger Siri to run the shortcut, do this thing. When I tap the button, do this other
Why don't you just know the very esoteric ways it works, Chris? Like,
thing.
this is like,
Because,
I'm sure anybody watching is like, I have no freaking clue. And it's like, when you use the show results action, Siri will speak back what you put in there. But if you
yes.
run it normally, it won't speak it out loud. But if you use the dictate text action or speak text, then it'll say
Yeah.
it out loud no matter what. And also, if you use the dictate text, then that will always dictate it. But if you use ask for input and you run it manually, it won't ask. But then when it's run from Siri, it will ask. See, this is
See,
why it's like I
that's
can't
the
make an
problem.
actual video about this because it's just like nested. Like it's like
You would
maybe
need
it
like
works sometimes.
you would need a flow chart of like like pyramid scheme level, like
Yeah,
just like
it's like the
okay,
Charlie
it-
Day writing
okay,
on the wall, being like
exactly
the
like
strings are
when,
connected. I should make an actual video like that.
that would be hilarious. Yeah, no, you gotta stand on one leg when triggering the shortcut through
Exactly.
Siri in order to get it. Yeah, it's very very confusing. So most of the time, that's why I have shortcuts on my home screen. I just open my phone,
Yeah.
open my iPad, hit the button, it runs, it does its thing. If there's menus, I just select the menu.
Nice. Somebody else in the chat is also asking AirPods. Anything that you can run with Siri, any shortcut like this, when you ask Siri to run it, she'll do the same thing and ask you those menu options out loud and stuff like that from your AirPods. So it's amazing. Like that's why I want to do more and more of these streams because there's so much that making
Mhm.
fully produced videos is like we can get so much more out in here. Yeah, same thing. Somebody said Apple Watch and that is a little spottier, but
Yeah, I've quit trying to use the Apple Watch for shortcuts because I think I would get it to work maybe 10% of the time. It's just it wasn't worth it. Going back to the AirPods thing,
oh yeah,
so automations was added in iOS 13, and I built an automation that basically anytime my Bluetooth headphones are connected, it triggers a menu that asks me if I want to listen to podcasts or music.
nice.
And then so if
And
it's
you run
podcasts,
that from your phone every time?
yeah, it'll run it from my phone
Yeah,
or my iPad. So I set it up in both locations. So whenever I pair my AirPods, it either asks for that or I can just ignore it and go do something else.
yeah. That's another thing that anybody watching is probably running into is that when you try to do Bluetooth time-based and location and Wi-Fi automations don't actually run in the background.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have the option to, and I think it's seems like it's a security thing, but that is like a bunch of people are like, well, it's not automatic and it's completely useless now. Which I do feel like the Bluetooth ones are the closest. I feel like
Yes.
I've put it on my iPad and that's where it works for me. I use mine with my phone so much that I would just like put in my AirPods and then like 30 different times and then just have a bunch of notifications that I never actually triggered. But we talked about this too in a pre-show thing that we did of just like I have notification blindness, and so I just don't even see so many of those. So my project is to cut them down.
Yeah, I very strict when it comes to what gets to give me notifications. Speaking of notifications, have you been using push cuts at all?
I have. I am actually talking to the developer this week because
Oh,
I
really?
want to. I mean, it's about some of the new features, but also like I know it and I've set it up, but I have so many shortcuts that like right now I have not had the mental space to wrap my head around which ones should like I'm already trying to figure out which ones work with Siri, which ones can be triggered automatically with that is like a whole nother level that I'm close, but I've been really trying to like make sure that the ones that I use are I mean, it's so like you might have this problem, but when you make shortcuts about shortcuts and you're writing about shortcuts using
Mhm.
shortcuts, it's very meta and it can get just like overwhelming. So that's
Yeah.
my realm now is I'm slowly adopting it and I'm just going to like maybe you can help me with some too in the future because that's the type of stuff that I can totally come up with the ideas, but when I sit down to do it, my brain is like, which one of these 900 should I work on?
And see, I took it one at a time. Like I'm using push cuts to basically give me dynamic notifications. So like I'm using it on my iPhone to remind me to. So I'm type 1 diabetic. I'm using it to remind
Oh
me to take
yeah.
my medication, test my blood sugar at specific times.
Hmm.
Then I use it with like Zapier and Airtable. So like I have an Airtable database that keeps track of like all the video games I want to play, and then the day a game comes out, it gets moved to a new table view. Airtable terminology is very
Yeah.
confusing. And then Zapier will see that, and then will trigger push cuts to tell me, "Hey, this game is out today."
Yeah, nice. That's good. I feel
Yeah.
like we
So
should save that for a future stream
yeah.
because if people don't
Okay,
know where
that's a
to
tease.
start, push
Yeah.
cuts
That
is like way over their heads is the problem.
I yeah, I know. I can get deep. I've been working on a script for push cuts, and it's long.
I feel like I gotta if people do want to see more like that, leave a comment or something because I am curious how much people are interested in the deeper end of shortcut stuff. And we'll do a stream where it's like disclaimer,
Yeah.
this is for if you know how shortcuts works because
Yeah.
otherwise it's
You,
a little
you, you
much.
need you need to know how Zapier, Airtable, and shortcuts works in order to get this kind of thing,
Yeah.
because it does get deep. Like you can get very deep into it, and that's one of the things. Like I saw a lot of people not necessarily complain when shortcuts was originally announced. Like when Apple,
Hmm.
kind of officially came out with shortcuts and workflow went away, is that they were saying it's very superficial automation. It's very surface level, but
Yeah.
I mean, you can do stuff with shortcuts that I couldn't do with Automator,
Automate
because I
at
just
all.
don't know Automator. Like, and it doesn't
Even
take
it's
me that
just
long to learn shortcuts.
yeah, it's like a lot more complex. I mean,
Yeah.
I think shortcuts still has its own issues. I think in many ways it's just like there's so much it does that it is hard to nail it down. So I feel like series like this where we can hone in on one specific part and go deep will be helpful. But I guess my major thing is like we obviously are like here I'll show my devices. We are going to town and have like I mean I have 200 shortcuts on my home screen, but I think the biggest thing is that one you can put shortcuts on your home screen. So I
Hmm.
recommend if you have any, put them there just to see them, just as a reminder to even use them at all. And then maybe you don't find it useful, then that's a good way to like actually get it into your rotation.
Yeah.
And for people who have more advanced needs, there's tons of possibility. We almost I mean it is I guess the slightly I want to wrap up here in a second, but Jeff Perry also made his whole shortcuts pack. I have a couple here on mine. Let me switch it back over.
Yeah. Oh shoot.
He
I'm
did
glad
like
Yeah. He's my co-host,
yeah,
and I
your
forgot to mention
podcast
him.
go.
Sorry, Jeff.
You like Federico does
Oops.
such great work. Nobody else that I
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
does anything like this.
Sorry. Yeah, no, Jeff does, and his pack is free too. So you can he actually used Toolbox Pro to generate all of those. He didn't
Yeah,
hand make them. He
I was gonna
used the
say when
shortcut
he's
to
like,
make them.
isn't there like 2,500 or something? I was like,
It's
I
a
hope you didn't
lot.
make
He
them.
sent me he sent me a few different like versions of them, like as testing things. So I don't remember which one the final one is, but there's quite a few in there.
I'm
I need
determined to post like a series of them and then have basically like design Twitter freak out over it because it's like the perfect. If you can see on my screen, I have A and R on mine or Ashby and Rockridge, which are the train stations nearby me, and they look like train icon. It looks like a subway map to me of the like A and R. It's like, oh, the green line and stuff like that. And I do feel like that's just like right in somebody's aesthetic of like just a clean white, especially if you did all white and only had those icons. Like that's the major hack with these is. But he did all of the different colors and the whole alphabet.
Yeah,
awesome.
he did white and black backgrounds, and then all the colors you could do, and then the whole alphabet and numbers. So I can't even remember what that adds up to, but it's quite a bit. But I was very impressed. He generated it all through using shortcuts in Toolbox Pro, which Toolbox Pro is one of those apps we'll probably have to save for another.
Yeah, I was gonna say
that's so good.
It's like shortcuts on crack or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I've mastered vanilla shortcuts, so now what else you got? And that's when you go and down. Toolbox Pro is one of those apps I really want Apple to buy because I really want it to be, because I feel bad sharing shortcuts that take advantage of Toolbox Pro, because it's like, hey, here's the shortcut, now you got to go buy this app.
Yeah, I'm curious. That would be nice. I almost want him to make it into a suite of apps. I mentioned this. I don't want to like push him on the live stream or something, but it's like it's just like it does have so many functions that when I like the thing that I have is when I go in here and search for something, it's like URL. I do get like okay, that was a bad example, but usually there's like a bunch of results that like sometimes it's like overwhelming. Do I even have it set up here? I don't know why it's not showing up, but Toolbox Pro is also a Shortcuts Pro app, I would say. Yes,
it's very much like it can do some pretty cool stuff. I have a few shortcuts that take advantage of it. I saw a couple of people in the chat really quick ask if I could share the automation shortcut. You can't actually share shortcuts in automation, but all it is when it connects to Bluetooth device, it has a menu, and then one says podcast, one says
I wasn't
music.
showing it. There you go. Okay.
Oh, okay. Here we go. So it's just a choose from menu. One's podcast, one's music, and then it has the overcast option, and then just play. And I actually like the personalized radio station in Apple Music.
Oh, it's so good, dude.
It's for the most part spot on. So usually, like if I just need a generic like quick play kind of thing, that's what I go with.
I think let me switch to my iPad real quick. I have a home screen icon that's called Tunage. Oh, I might not have it on this one. I have it on my other iPad, but it just starts that radio station because I was like, what do I call? I don't know. I have some of mine are very dumb names, but
yeah, I have a few that are some pretty stupid names that only I would get, but they're shortcuts for me. They're not ones I'd share. Somebody also in the chat asked where they can find all these shortcuts. On your website, you have a link to basically almost all of them, and on mine, I have a link to a few, but I'm going to be updating it here pretty soon. So
nice. Yeah, I have my Siri Shortcuts library. It doesn't actually have all of my work ones. Ooh, this is not showing up very well.
Yeah, mine are pretty basic. If you want a complete list of all my shortcuts, if you go to my YouTube channel, if you just search Christopher Lawley, I'm the guy that talks about the iPad, not the folk singer. And if you go to What's on My iPad, the latest What's on My iPad video, there's a link to all those shortcuts there, plus a link to my website where even more shortcuts are. So that's nice. If you're curious.
That's awesome, dude. This is great. Okay. Everybody should subscribe to Chris's stuff. What's your podcast called, and where do you find it?
Podcast is called A Slab of Glass. You can find it in any podcast player except Spotify.
Wherever you get your podcasts.
Wherever you get your podcasts, except Spotify, because it's not there for some reason. Actually, it might be on Spotify now. I know it's not on that other one that they were charging for. Anyways, whatever. You get anywhere where most people listen to podcasts, that's where it is. And then if you want to find my YouTube stuff, you can just search Christopher Lawley, Lawley. I talk about iPads and shortcut stuff.
Nice. Yeah, it's awesome stuff. Also, I totally want to just say a disclaimer. I watched some of your videos on YouTube on my Google Home thing, and that's why it shows that I haven't finished some of them on my iPad itself. I just want to put that out there so you don't.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Hey, I found out my podcast co-host, Jeff, hadn't been watching my videos for a while because he had given up on the iPad, so he stopped watching my videos. So, I shamed him for that. So, yeah, so he's back. So he's watching my videos now. Yeah.
He can't resist it.
He can't. No, nobody can resist the call of the iPad.
Nice. Well, we will slowly convert people with videos like this. So
Yes.
Awesome,
come to
man.
the iPad at Shortcuts.
Thank you for coming on. This is fun.
Absolutely.
And we're gonna have to do way more because it's like even though we talked for an hour, you probably can't build any new shortcuts from this. So we got to get those sessions in. I want to have one where you're just like build me a shortcut, and I'll just be like
Maybe we'll have to. We live pretty close, so maybe we'll have to do it in person.
Yeah, I was gonna say
that would be pretty fun.
I got to get this exact same shot, but you're just actually right here next to me instead of digital. It's like, wow, that was totally different for the viewers. No.
Yeah, no, I think it'd be fun. We got to do this again.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you everybody for watching, and I will see you in a future stream. All right.
Thanks,
see you later,
guys.
Chris. Bye.
See ya.